Good morning, everyone. We'd like to thank you for coming here this morning, giving us the opportunity to be able to share some information about all the resources that we have available to the community. Being able to put that information out to community members, citizens of Baton Rouge, to where they can call the resources that are available to them whenever they're in a crisis type situation. Chief Paul.
Sure, thank you. Good morning. Today we wanted to hold this conference centered around community resources, not just for the upcoming cold weather and the holiday season, but as well as some of the recent incidents and violent crime that we believe, based on the data, based on some of the motives that could be prevented, or there were opportunities for intervention. All the resources that we have available and all the partners that you see standing besides me today are here to help. When we talk about crime, we talk about it's a community issue, and a community response is needed in these times. And we want to bridge the gap ahead of the upcoming new year with the cold weather, with some of the challenges with mental illness that we're seeing right now. And you're going to hear from some individuals on the public safety side, the weather safety, fire safety, community engagement, domestic violence, substance abuse, as well as mental health. And all of the folks and organizations that we often reach out to as a department are here to provide that subject matter expertise that are needed when there's a need. A lot of resources, and we want you to know that when faced with anything that I just mentioned, that there is help available. What we're going to do is we're going to ask Justin Hill to come up first and speak from Red Stick Ready, followed by Johnny Dunham with Crime Stoppers, followed by Jessica Matthews with Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, followed by Sergeant Walter Griffith, who's representing Truce, followed by Patty Freeman with Iris. Captain Dave Mays will be speaking on behalf of the Butterfly Society and BRPD, and Tanja Miles, when you are ready, BR, and Miss Kathy Tolliver with Help 5 Stay Alive. So we're going to ask speakers to come up in that order, starting with Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Chief. So we have a frigid Arctic air mass moving into the area. It's going to come in late Thursday into the weekend. Current weather forecasts suggest the weather will be dry, but we are anticipating having temperatures below freezing for 30 plus hours. The city parish has been in constant contact with the National Weather Service regarding this cold weather event, and they've also been in contact with local meteorologists for more information. So we want to share some winter safety fire tips with you. First off, we want to tell you to stay prepared. Install and test smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors with battery backups. We want to stay safe. Keep all combustible material at least 3 feet away from any heat source. If you're using space heaters, make sure that you don't use them and leave them unattended. Don't cover them up with anything. Also, make sure, inspect those cords, make sure there's no damage, and if you plug them in and notice any sparks, don't use them. You want to stay ready. You want to take some precautions, protect your family and your friends, dress in layers, protect your pets, keep them inside and dry and warm if possible. Protect your plants, cover them up. Your pipes in your homes, protect them, cover them, wrap them to protect those. Stay neighborly, check on your neighbors. Check them out, make sure that they need some help, offer some assistance. Stay aware, stay up to date with current weather conditions. Monitor your local news outlets on TV, listen to them on the radio, and follow them on social media. You can also follow Red Stick Ready for more up-to-date information. We have a few resources available. You can go to brla.gov/emergency for latest closures and emergency alerts. You can call 211 for local resources. You can also text 211 at 898-211. You can call 311 for public works requests. You can call 511 for state road closures. You can also call 911 for emergencies only. So now we have Kathy Tolliver. Oh, I'm sorry, John. Sorry about that.
I'm Johnny Dunham. I'm the Executive Director for Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers has been the tip line in Baton Rouge for over 40 years now. And I'm here to talk a little bit about crime during the holiday season. Ask that people, if they have information on obviously packages being stolen at front doors from anywhere, any type of planned crime, if they know anything about anybody trying to plan a crime during the holiday season, to call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP or go online and submit a tip through our website, which is crimestoppers225.com. Or download the P3 app on your cell phone. Pick the Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers and submit a tip. You can submit video, you can submit pictures, anything through that app that'll get to Crime Stoppers, and you will remain anonymous and receive cash reward for the information. Crime Stoppers is there for any type of crime tip, whether it be illegal guns, whether it be fentanyl overdoses, and all these people here, domestic violence, are here to give you information from their organization standpoint on helping to prevent and stop these types of violent crimes that we have going on in our city. So Crime Stoppers is the avenue to submit an anonymous tip. So if you have a tip during this holiday season, please call Crime Stoppers at 344-STOP or submit it through the app or online. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Matthews. I'm the director for Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, which sits in the office of Mayor President Broome. Safe, Hopeful, Healthy seeks to bring community in the conversation and the work around community-based public safety. And so we partner with many organizations in our city to stand up these projects. So one that I think that is very pertinent for this time to point out is our Baton Rouge Community Street Team. We know that during the holiday season and during this time, crime can be an issue, violent crime in particular. And so we're asking folks to, if they do not want to participate or reach out to Baton Rouge Police Department, there are other options. If they need support in conflict resolution, if they need support with stopping violence when it's happening, they can reach out to the street team who do high-risk intervention work. Their contact information is brcst.org, or also you can call them at 1-877-999-BRCST. And I want to correct that number. It's 1-877-99-BRCST. Those folks are community-based individuals who are from 70802 and 70805, and they are highly trained in conflict resolution, and they also provide mentorship to high-risk individuals. So if you are looking for that support during the holiday season, we at Safe, Hopeful, Healthy encourage you to reach out to the street team. In addition, if you're looking for more information on how you can engage with Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, please follow us on Instagram at Safe, Hopeful, Healthy BR. Again, that's Safe, Hopeful, Healthy BR, and there will be all kinds of information around how community can get engaged in this work around violence reduction.
Good morning, I'm Sergeant Walter Griffin, Baton Rouge Police. I'm the Truce Liaison. Basically, Truce, we work with the youth ages 14 to 24. We offer them additional resources so that they can live healthy and productive lives. The resources that we have available are mental health referrals, substance abuse referrals, as well as transportation. We provide them with Uber, Lyft transportation if they can afford it, to and from those referrals, as well as additional educational assistance.
Good morning, I'm Patty Freeman with the Iris Domestic Violence Center. We are a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week shelter for victims of domestic violence along with their children. We will provide transfer or transportation to or from that shelter if the victim or law enforcement isn't available to transport the victim. We will provide those victims who need our help with an emergency place to live, somewhere that they can eat. All of our services are provided free of charge for victims. We also have a full legal department that will represent victims who are in the process or going through the process of protective order hearings, and also provide them with advocacy during those hearings. Want to encourage anyone who feels that they are in a desperate situation or needs help to get out of that situation, a violent situation with a partner, dating partner, spouse, or a family member, to reach out to us at our 24-hour-a-day hotline. A human being will answer that phone and we will go into immediate action. That phone number is 225-389-3001, and again, that's every day of the week, 24 hours a day.
Good morning. My name is Tanja Miles with Set Free Indeed Ministry. There are several campaigns that we're working on in our community that will address mental health and substance abuse. The first thing I'd like to tell you about is whenyourreadybr.com. We know that fentanyl overdose is a challenge throughout all our communities, and so we have a team of 8 trained certified peer support specialists who are out on the street every day addressing where those hot spots are, where people are overdosing the most, and then going out and taking resources to those areas with those trained mental health professionals. We're excited to say we've been doing this for a while, and in the last 3 months we've seen a decrease in overdose deaths in our community, but we know we still have a lot of more work to do. So if anyone is struggling with any kind of mental health challenges, particularly fentanyl or any kind of addiction, they can go to whenyourreadybr.com. All the information is there, all the resources, everything that you need. Even if it's a family member that you know who's struggling with addiction and you want to know what resources are, you can go to whenyourreadybr.com and you can find out what organizations that we have vetted that you can go into and get treatment. The other thing that I'd like to talk to you guys about is 988. I'm super excited for 988. 988 is a national hotline for anyone in our community who's having any kind of crisis. It could be mental health, it could be an emotional crisis, it can be substance abuse. And that number is a national hotline, but it's connected to local resources. 988. So if you or someone you know is experiencing any kind of emotional challenge, it could be even suicide, you want to call 988, and licensed and trained people are there to get you the help that you need. Again, it's not just for the individual who's going through a crisis, but if you have a family member or a friend, or if you see someone in our community, it could be someone on the street, and you know that their behavior is erratic, call 988 and they'll be able to tell you what to do. It's almost like the new emergency number for someone who's in a crisis, kind of similar to what 911 is. The other thing is, of course, is the Bridge Center for Hope, 24 hours, 7 days a week. Louisiana and Baton Rouge first stabilization center in the area. And so there's no wrong door. So if you or someone is experiencing any kind of crisis, all you do is go to the front door, you ring the buzzer, the staff will come out there and they will receive you as a guest. And it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. So if there's anyone who's experiencing any kind of challenges during the holidays, we know that there's an uptick in mental health and addiction during this time. So 988 is the first line of defense. If you call that number, it will connect you to the resources for anyone who's having a crisis, be it mental health, substance abuse, or any kind of crisis.
Good morning. My name is Captain Dave Mays, Baton City Police. I'm glad y'all here this morning to get out the information that a lot of people don't know in Baton Rouge is the Families Justice Center. It's located at 1120 Government Street. It deals with domestic violence and stop the loss. We also work in cooperation with IRIS. So if you know someone that's going through a domestic violence, or it could be an elderly person, we have some resources there to help them. A lot of things that's going on in Baton Rouge and the locations that we have is really secretive. So if someone, a lady, or it could be a male that needs some assistance, we're here to help them. So the address is 1120 Government Street. It's the Family Justice Center. We deal with stop the loss as well, violence and strangulation, different things of that nature. We're also in the process of working along with DCFS. We know there's an uptick in a lot of with the children getting injured. And so they are being housed at the 1120 Governor Street Family Justice Center. So have your family members reach out to if they need someone to help them, and along with some counseling. And we're here to help you. You can always call our number, 225-389-2000. That's our headquarters numbers. And we'll be able to help your loved ones. Thank you.
Our hope is that if you know someone out there who needs help, that you will turn to one of these agencies behind us. We know through our investigative efforts that there are so many opportunities for intervention, and that mental health in our community is real. Crime Stoppers has been posting on social media, if you see something, say something. If you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. If you have a relative that you know has been abusing his spouse, if you have a relative who you know has been abusing someone that he's in an intimate relationship with, if you know someone who has been abusing an elderly person, I am asking and we're pleading with you to pick up the phone and call one of our domestic violence partners. Check on your neighbors. If you have an elderly neighbor, check on them as this cold weather event is coming to our area. Check on them, ask them if they need help. So many opportunities for intervention. One of our partners, Miss Kathy Tolliver, who's going to be available for an interview after this conference on the heels of the death of her grandchild, Devin Page, started Help 5 Stay Alive. If we can just pick up the phone and call 5 people every week to check on their mental state of mind, especially during this holiday season, just check up on them to see how they're doing. Sometimes those who we think are the strongest people are the ones who need the help the most. Help 5 Stay Alive. Call 5 people once a week. Check up on them. Listen to them. Offer them help. Direct them to resources that are behind us. One of our frustrations is when those phones don't ring often enough. When we have experts waiting to hear from you, to provide help to you. Please, mother, if you know your son is in conflict, if you know that your son has been on social media feuding with someone, if he's communicated to you that he has been threatened by someone, please pick up the phone and call Truce. There are resources available. Pick up the phone. Call our street team. There are experts available to help resolve those differences, resolve that conflict. Don't wait until it's too late. You can do something today. You can do something today. Now we'll take questions.
Chief Paul, this past year we've seen a decrease in homicides compared to last year, particularly compared to last year, but also compared to 2020. So there were some kind of worrying trends, like a larger number of children dying to violent crime, and then certain areas that have struggled with this continuing to struggle. What's your assessment overall of the city's homicide rate over the past year as we kind of reach the end of the year?
Yeah, when you look at the trends, some of the things, some of the things that we did with the Summer of Hope, which was led by the mayor's office. You know, that community engagement piece, we really saw some wins in that, particularly the cooperation from the community. A lot of calls coming in from the community helping us identify who the criminals are, who those individuals are involved in violent crime in our city. And we actually saw some significant decreases. When you look at the current trend that we were on, December right now has probably been one of our worst months. We've had a lot of shootings, and I can tell you, I read every single one of them. I get every single call. I'm briefed every Monday morning. And things that stand out is arguments preceded some of these shootings, drug related, some of these shootings, particularly domestic, some of these shootings. And when we learned that there was opportunities for intervention where the domestic issues were known to people and the victims in a circle. And that's why we are stressing that there are resources, asking family members and loved ones, if you know something, you may not see it, but you know it. Pick up the phone and call. There's so many people out there that's offering help. The number of kids that have been victimized by loved ones is very concerning to us. And that's why we want to offer these resources and let the community know that we are working hard to keep these individuals and get them off the streets, and we're working hard to arrest individuals. When we look at some of the things that we implemented since the Summer of Hope, we've seen non-fatal shootings go down as well, not just the homicides. But we've been arresting a lot of individuals for felonies. More than 4,013 people have been arrested in our city for felonies. So we are putting criminals in jail. We've arrested 465 juveniles. And we've taken thousands of guns off the streets of Baton Rouge. More homicides this year than last year. We've actually arrested 68 individuals for homicides in 2022. And of that 13, we've also arrested 13 homicide juvenile arrests. So 13 have been arrested were juveniles and 55 were adults.
Thank you.
I know you mentioned domestics and when you're talking about the number of shootings and violent crime and everything. And there's been an increase in domestic shootings in the city. And I know the point of this is letting people know that there are those resources out there for them to get help, especially around the holidays and especially with the cold weather coming, you're going to be inside with someone that you may not want to be with because of whatever the situation is. What do you tell someone who may be in a situation like this and they feel like they have nowhere to turn, they have no hope, they just don't feel like they can do anything?
What we're saying to those individuals who are experiencing what you just said, there is help. There is someone to turn. Please, please pick up the phone and get the help. What's the alternative? We see what's going on in our community. I can tell you that Iris, that Butterfly Society, they're waiting for those phone calls. We're not just talking about experts who can help them and navigate them through that. We're talking about individuals who have the life experience on what they're going through. People who've experienced that, who can help them. I don't think not saying nothing, not doing nothing, it should no longer be an option. When we talk about gun violence, I had the opportunity to speak to over 150 juveniles in the Louisiana Youth Challenge Camp with the National Guard. And I asked those group of young kids the same question I ask kids every time I go around and I speak at schools or I speak to our youth. I said, how many of you have seen someone on social media with a gun? Someone your age, someone in your school with a gun. And about 80% of the kids raise their hands that they've seen someone on social media with a gun. And the follow-up question that I ask is, of those that you saw, how many times you've experienced what we would call beef or escalation going on between two individuals or two groups of individuals on social media? About 70% left their hands up. And I say, how many of you told a concerned adult, a teacher, a loved one, or someone who could have stepped in? And they all put their hands down. I think there was about 2 or 3 kids who left their hands up. And then I asked why. And the message from our youth was, because I'm not a snitch. Snitches get stitches. That's what our babies are believing, a lie that was made by criminals so they can continue their felonious activity. There are many opportunities in this community for intervention. We need brave folks to stand up. We need family members, friends, and loved ones to stand up. Don't be scared. Let's do something about it.
Chief, my question is, if they aren't stepping up and that continues, what else can we do to better monitor what's going on, like on these social media pages, with these juveniles, with these domestic cases? Is there something else we can do to better monitor what's being put on social media?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, one of the things we've been doing is expanding our analytical capability, and doing that, asking the community to continue notifying us when they see crimes or information that could prevent a crime on social media. Part of that is continue to communicate that message, right? You know, when people think about Crime Stoppers, you know, you can call Crime Stoppers for just about anything, not just for the reward, not just for a homicide. You can call Crime Stoppers when you see someone, snapshot it, take a picture of it, send it to us. You can call the community street teams. Those are the opportunities for intervention that we talk about. And we know that when our community gets involved, when they say things and do things. We were at a community event with 100 black men, and we encourage parents to get engaged, know what your kids are doing, search their rooms, search their cars, and if you find a gun, you can call one of our partners and we'll come pick it up with no questions asked. But I assure you, the issue wasn't just finding the gun. Find out why your child is carrying a gun. What are the reasons that he has to carry a gun? Explore that. And we actually had parents, and also our partnership with Change, where mothers have retrieved weapons, guns, from their loved one and turned it into the Baton Rouge Police Department. I hope that that small gesture of taking that may have prevented a violent incident from happening in our community. Trauma, a lot of trauma out there, all right? Depression in the holidays. I see one of our partners just walked in, and I'm going to ask Ms. Tolliver to come up and help talk about another initiative, Help 5 Stay Alive. Ms. Tolliver.
Good morning. Thank you, Chief. You know, my heart is heavy. My heart is very heavy, and I'm ready to take action and take it to another level due to the sudden death or the murder of my 3-year-old grandson. So the birth of that, God had given me an initiative to start the campaign, Help 5 Stay Alive. What is that, you ask? Help 5 Stay Alive. I'm asking everybody to start the process of calling 5 people, just 5 people, whether once a week, once every 2 weeks, and check on their mental state. Check on what's going on. Just ask them how they're doing. Wherever I am, I'm constantly asking people, how are you? Now let me tell you something. I don't know if you believe in dreams or not, But I'm going to tell you, while walking in Walmart, there was a mother. Since the death of my grandson, people have just been approaching me left and right. But this one particular woman, I remember what she said to me. And she said, "Hi, Kathy." She said, "My son was murdered. He was, but he was doing some stuff he should not have been doing." And she said, "We buried him." She said, "It broke my heart." But this is what happened. She said, "But she had a dream a couple of weeks after she buried her son." And she said he appeared to her and he was sitting on a tree stump. And he said, "Mama, I didn't have anybody to talk to. Nobody asked me how I was doing." And that, when she told me, was confirmation about this new movement about helping five stay alive. I'm telling you, it is important to find out what people are thinking, what's going on in their hearts. Because if you don't, we can't talk them down off the ledge. I said, and I said constantly, until, I believe that the person that murdered my grandson, blew his brains out. If someone had asked that person how they're doing, what's going on with them, I believe they could have been talked down off the ledge. And I believe possibly my grandson would still be here. So I want to get the city and surrounding areas to get on board. Help Five Stay Alive. It is so important. It is so important. You know how you feel if someone asks you how you're doing. We just saw on the news, and I'm wrapping this up, we saw on the news where even doctors are overwhelmed. What do the physicians turn? Where do they turn when they are broken? What do they do? Everybody is dealing with something, because it begins biblically. The Bible says many are the afflictions that's going to be in this world. Tribulation is here. It's here. You can't get away from it. Look at the graveyard if you don't believe it. Everybody in this room, we have an expiration date. Everybody. We just don't know when our time is. But while we're waiting, I just want you to catch on fire. I'm yoking up with Chief Murphy Paul. I'm telling you, I was one of those people just like you who's watching. I'm not supporting the police. I'm not getting on board. I'm not. But then when I met this man, and I began to spend time and talk to this man, then I saw that he has a heart. How did I find that out? By spending time talking to him. And that's what I'm saying to everybody today. Listen, we're approaching the holidays. If you don't have anything, it's okay. Give love. Find out what someone is in need of. Give them a hug. Give them an embrace. It works, I'm telling you, just to say how you're doing. I'm angry. I'm so angry because people just won't get involved. You won't say anything. Why? Until it happens to you. Then you'll come running. We're trying to prevent this from happening. Say something now. It's not going to cost you anything to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Help Five Stay Alive and pick up the phone. Get involved, people. You just might save someone's life. This is not politics. I'm not into that. I'm into doing what's right. And that's why I'm standing with this man. That's why I'm joining forces with this man. I have heard his heart. Are you hearing my heart? Come talk to me. Come talk to me. Google me and you will see what I'm all about. Help Five Stay Alive, everybody.
Thank you for those words. And when you talk about paying it forward, and when Ms. Tolliver talked about that, and I began to think about, I got a phone call, just down the street, went down and met with the pastor, just to have a conversation, and I found myself venting, unloading some of my emotions of what I was experiencing as your chief of police this holiday season, and I needed to have that conversation with him. And I wrote down 5 people who I'm going to call. Thanks to Ms. Tolliver when she said help Five Stay Alive. When I was trying to think about who those 5 people were, I begin to think about people who I used to talk to a lot and I don't talk to them as often. Some who I've experienced a change in their behavior. One I've experienced a change in his demeanor, in his dressing. And I would not have thought about that until she brought that to my attention. So I'm going to take that challenge and continue calling 5 people that I know may be going through some of the same things that I'm going through and that our officers are going through. Being respectful of the process, I can tell you that I've had conversation with my staff about our officers who are now getting the help that they need, that are taking advantage of our peer support system. We just promoted one of our young, bright supervisors who's doing an excellent job in providing peer-to-peer support to our officers who are experiencing issues, mental health issues, who are going through stressful situations. And we are creating an environment where our officers feel safe to say, I need help. I need a timeout. And we're going to get them the help that they need. So please, please follow up on her challenge because it's much needed. Any more questions?
I have a question for Ms. Freeman about domestic violence and everything, especially this time of year. Is that the fear that you may see, or that we may, as a city, as a community, see more domestic violence issues around the holidays?
Certainly it is. I mean, our numbers increased this year and historically have increased through the holidays and during summer vacations. We currently have 23 children in our care and in our shelter with their mothers. So that is always a fear of ours. Or that because of the anxieties and the stressors of the holiday, that the abuser will escalate into more than just abuse, and that we will ultimately lose the victim. So yes, it's a great fear. But again, we try to combat that by encouraging victims to reach out to us, to speak to our crisis line, to understand that they will have a case manager who will walk beside them to create a successful path for they and their children, one of safety, encouragement, help them get back on their feet financially, help them with their protective order hearings, provide supportive counseling through the Family Justice Center, who we partner with. And of course, we encourage them to reach out to law enforcement, but they don't have to have a police report in place to receive services from us. So we will send transportation if they have none, to retrieve them and bring them to a safe place or to shelter. Whether male, female, doesn't matter to us. We provide services equally to both.
I can hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I can hear the passion in your voice behind it. What does it mean for you to do this work, to help people who are dealing with domestic violence?
I worked more than 28 years in law enforcement, specialized in domestic violence. Transitioning over to IRIS as its executive director is the most fulfilling job of my life. Watching our children come in and us creating an environment, even just in our shelter alone for our residential clients, we call them, creating a place where they can not be fearful coming from trauma, but actually experience joy in the environment that we provide. That is a goal because we know historically shelter was traumatic also, coming out of trauma, violence, and experiencing that along with their parent or being exposed to it. But at IRIS, we put a lot of effort into changing that mindset for our children and hoping that They will experience joy, be so young they don't remember it as traumatic, or even old enough to understand that they weren't scared, that they experienced joy, and that their mothers were able to get the assistance they needed and move forward on a path to success. Any way, any shape, any form that comes in for us, we do. We try to provide everything and anything that could be needed. We provide all meals, mothers and children and fathers come to us with nothing because they're fleeing an environment where they're being hurt, terrorized. We can provide for all of their needs, and they don't have to be concerned about putting a roof over their children's head. We're here. Feeding their children, we provide that. Clothing their children, we provide that. Getting them to and from school, we'll assist with that. Worrying about going to court for a protective order hearing where you have to face your tormentor. We're going to provide advocacy there. We're going to provide legal assistance there and an attorney to represent you free of cost. So anything and everything. This community has been so extraordinarily generous to our organization. Our partnerships have been generous with their time and their assistance. Our children will experience Christmas much like every other child in this community because of the generosity of this community while living in our shelter. So yeah, IRIS is important for our entire community here in Baton Rouge, but also for the 8 other parishes that we serve surrounding Baton Rouge.
Any other questions before we conclude?
Question for you, Chief. So this past weekend, we kind of saw the street racing, those people who like to do whatever they do with their cars. Kind of looked like it was going away, but now it's popped up again. Where are we with this?
Well, we did. We put a lot of enforcement action into that when it happened before, and I think you're correct. We kind of seen it go away, and then we had this weekend, which appears to be a very organized and coordinated event. We have our uniform patrol commander who has been monitoring those activities and can tell you about our response to this weekend events. It's unfortunately that we have a group of individuals who think this is a game, who are doing things like that for social media to get likes and for popularity on social media. Let me be clear. The last time this event happened, we investigated, and if you recall, we didn't stop our investigation on the day of. In fact, we arrested many individuals weeks, months later because our investigative efforts did not stop. And the same is the case in this incident, in these incidents. We will continue working our investigations in coordination with the sheriff's office. A lot of those locations that were highlighted were not in the city limits because they were going from spot to spot to spot to spot. But we will investigate that in coordination with them. But I'm going to ask our uniform commander, Captain Clara, to come in to talk about BRPD's response to these events this weekend.
Captain William Clarity, Uniform Patrol Commander. This weekend, in regards to summary of the events, we first and foremost, this was the first organized effort that we had encountered with the street racers as far as to the extent that it occurred since August. And that was when the ordinance changed within the city limits, which stiffened the penalties for the drag racing. To give you an idea, on that particular night, Saturday night into Sunday morning, we had a total of 11 calls for service that the city police responded to. Some of those did border areas that were outside of the city. One particular incident over off of North Mall, we ended up where an extra duty officer observed activity occurring. He called it in. We had a coordinated effort of officers and what was available to go and attempt to contact Those subjects at that time, one of them fled, and they ended up driving over to Highland Road. So we did end up we were everywhere, and they were everywhere as well. And that's what the chief referenced when he talked about the organized effort. I mean, we had whatever resources we had, we were deploying as quickly as we could. Most of those incidents that were called in, we responded in less than 5 minutes. As far as the drag racing events, we never stopped monitoring them, but like anything else, you have to kind of change and try to determine how they're communicating and what they're putting out, which in this case, we didn't have anything come up on the radar, but that's okay. We'll make the changes and we'll continue doing what we're doing. Questions particularly on that?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about our enforcement acts, when we started the task force in January, we've cited about 15 individuals with drag racing statute, and those vehicles were impounded. We've told, just in our task force, about 245 vehicles this year, and we've written over 1,800 citations. That's just the task force. That's not the police department as a whole. And those are the task forces that started with the drag racing, and as it went away, we believe that our efforts may have pushed them out to other areas of the state. All of the individuals involved in this are not from the city of Baton Rouge, and we transitioned those officers into some of our hotspot policing efforts that we've been deploying assets to over the past half of this year. So that task force, that's the data that came as a result of those enforcement actions.
Is there any new information on the Lark apartment shooting?
I'm sorry, which one?
The Lark?
The one this morning on Burbank. It happened
Near
this morning.
LSU.
That one is under investigation. Right now.
As we talk about investigations, I know this is dragging on. My last question is, and you kind of have to, forgive me for asking this, but people are wondering, anything new on the Allie Rice case?
Still under investigation, just like those other investigations that we talked about. Here's what I want to reassure the community. Our detectives, and I believe a story was just written on the hard work that our detectives do every day. And they never stop investigating. And we're going to continue investigating. We're going to continue exhausting every investigative lead that's presented to us. We're going to continue following up on every tip. We're going to continue processing any forensic evidence that we have to identify the persons who are responsible for that, as well as the other homicides that are still open in the city.
Thank you.